Here's a question I would like to ask you. Have you ever said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Have you ever done something not because you wanted to, but because disappointing someone felt even worse? Maybe you agreed to something you didn't want to do. Maybe you apologized when you didn't need to. Maybe you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. Maybe you helped someone even when you knew it would cost you. Because if you have, I don't think that automatically means you're kind. And I don't think it automatically means you're weak either. And I think a lot of people pleasing gets misunderstood because people pleasing usually doesn't start with kindness. It starts with fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing people, fear that if you stop being useful, people might stop choosing you. And after enough time, saying yes stops feeling like a choice. It becomes automatic. You start managing other people's emotions, protecting other people's comfort, prioritizing everyone else's needs, while slowly disappearing from your own life. Because people pleasing isn't always, I want to help. Sometimes it becomes, I'm scared what happens if I don't. And I think that difference changes everything. And for me, that fear showed up everywhere. Because for most of my life, saying yes felt automatic. If someone needed help, I wanted to help. If someone was struggling, I wanted to be there. If someone needed something from me, my first instinct usually wasn't, what do I need? It was, how do I make this work? And honestly, I rarely stopped to ask whether I actually wanted to say yes, because saying no never felt neutral. Saying no felt selfish. Saying no felt uncomfortable. Saying no felt like risking conflict. So instead, I apologized too much. I agreed too quickly. I kept my opinions to myself. And I spent a lot of time trying to keep everyone around me comfortable. Because somewhere along the way, keeping other people happy started feeling safer than disappointing them. And when that becomes automatic, eventually you stop noticing how much of yourself you're giving away. And I think that question matters. Why do some people spend so much of their lives trying to make everyone else comfortable? Because honestly, I don't think most people pleasing starts with kindness. I think it starts with refinement. Human beings are wired for belonging. We want connection, acceptance, community, safety. And when rejection, criticism, conflict, or disapproval starts showing up repeatedly, your brain learns something. Keeping people happy keeps me safe. So over time, approval stops feeling nice. It starts feeling necessary. And that's where people pleasing becomes dangerous because eventually your identity can quietly become attached to being the helper, the reliable one, the easy one, the person who never causes problems. And once your identity attaches itself to those roles, boundaries stop feeling like boundaries. They start feeling like betrayal, which means every time you disappoint someone, your brain may interpret it as rejection, conflict, abandonment. And when your nervous system believes those things are threats, of course saying no feels hard. It's natural because sometimes people pleasing isn't really about helping people. Sometimes it's about protecting belonging. And for me, protecting belonging became expensive, literally, because for reasons I still don't fully understand, money somehow became tied to helping. Over the years, I had friends ask to borrow money. People I barely knew were asking me for money. Even random people from social media were reaching out with stories about being in difficult situations. And every single time there was a battle happening inside my head. Part of me wanted to help, part of me felt guilty even considering saying no. And then there was another part of me that quietly knew this pattern keeps hurting you, but the guilt usually won. Because when you are afraid disappointing people might cost you the relationship, saying yes feels safer until eventually the costs start showing up financially, emotionally, mentally. Because after enough times of being used, being unpaid back, or watching people disappear once they got what they needed, helping stopped feeling good. It started turning into resentment. And that might be one of the hardest parts about people pleasing. Sometimes you spend so much energy protecting relationships that you slowly damage your relationship with yourself. And I think this is where people pleasing becomes incredibly confusing because eventually the problem stops being other people. The problem becomes the war happening inside your own head because part of you knows this is hurting me, this is exhausting me, this keeps repeating. But another part says, don't disappoint them, don't upset them. What if they leave? And that internal conflict creates something dangerous: emotional self abandonment. Because when your needs repeatedly lose the argument, eventually your brain learns other people matter more. And I think many people pleasing patterns survive because they disguise themselves as good character, loyalty, kindness, generosity, compassion. But sometimes what looks like kindness externally is fear internally: fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of becoming unlikable. And when fear wears the mask of kindness, unhealthy patterns become very hard to recognize because you don't feel selfish for continuing them, you feel guilty for stopping. And honestly, stopping was hard, really hard, because for most of my life, saying yes had become automatic. So learning boundaries didn't feel empowering at first. It felt uncomfortable because every time I started saying no, the guilt showed up immediately. If someone told me a difficult story, guilt. If someone needed help, guilt. If someone seemed disappointed, even more guilt. And there were moments where saying no felt almost physically uncomfortable because part of me still believed helping equals being good, boundaries equal being selfish. But over time, I started noticing something. Every time I ignored my own limits, I paid for it later through stress, burnout, resentment, exhaustion. And eventually, I learned something I wish I understood much earlier. You can still be caring without being endlessly available. And now, saying no still isn't always easy for me, but I no longer let guilt make every decision for me. Because if someone cannot respect my limits, maybe they were benefiting from my lack of boundaries more than they were benefiting from me. And I think this is where boundaries get misunderstood. Because a lot of people hear the word boundaries and they immediately think walls, distance, selfishness, rejection. But healthy boundaries are none of those things. Boundaries are information. They tell people this is what I can give, this is what I cannot give, this is what hurts me, this is what protects me. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about boundaries is believing they exist to keep people out. Most healthy boundaries actually exist to keep relationships healthy. Because resentment destroys relationships faster than honesty usually does. Burnout destroys relationships faster than limits do. Exhaustion destroys relationships faster than saying, I can't right now. And something else took me a long time to understand. Boundaries are not only about protecting your time, they protect your money, your energy, your emotions, your identity, your future. Because if kindness constantly requires self sacrifice, eventually there is nothing left of you to give. And I don't think healthy people pleasing recovery means becoming cold. I think it means learning that your needs belong in the conversation too. And maybe that's what I wish more people understood about people pleasing. Most people who struggle with it are not weak. They're usually caring people, loyal people, compassionate people, people who learned somewhere along the way that keeping others happy was safer than risking rejection. But eventually, that strategy becomes expensive because constantly abandoning yourself to protect relationships slowly damages the relationship you have with yourself. And if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that boundaries didn't make me less caring. They made my kindness sustainable. I still help people, I still care deeply, and I still struggle saying no sometimes. But I no longer believe that caring for others requires abandoning myself. Because maybe being a good person was never supposed to mean carrying everyone else at your own expense. Maybe kindness was always supposed to include you too. And if any part of this felt familiar, I hope this video reminded you that protecting yourself does not make you selfish. It makes you human. I sincerely thank you for being here today. And if these conversations around rebuilding life, mental health, relationships, and growth resonate with you, subscribing is one of the best ways to support the channel and continue being part of this journey with me. Take care, my friend.